I'm Thomas Witherspoon of Asheville, North Carolina, and you're tuned to the International Radio Report, 30 minutes of news about radio on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
Welcome to the International Radio Report for Sunday, February the 12th, 2023. My name's Sheldon. I am here with Jill. We thank you for tuning in to us on CKUT 90.3 FM in the city of Montreal. We're here every week with 30 minutes of news and information from the world of radio. Several ways for you to reach us or to listen to our show. You can contact us by email, radioreport@yahoo.com. Our program is live streaming and archived on the CKUT website, CKUT.CA. Our Facebook group, it's called International Radio Report. We welcome one new member this week. His name is Eric. And our YouTube channel with 774 subscribers, that is where you can go and find our program and back editions of the show as well by going to youtube.com/@IRR. I mentioned the CKUT website. It is brand new.
Yep.
Lots of information, a whole new redesign on the CKUT.CA page. And you noticed some interesting things about our section of the page.
Yeah, I went to see our section and I looked at the archive, and usually CKUT had 3 months of archives. Now they're going back all the way to 2020. So they have every show of last year and of 2021.
That's nice to be able to have another outlet for finding the shows. So you can check that out. Just go on the programming tab of the new webpage. Check out the page. Got lots of interesting information about the other programs on the station. CKUT.CA. NASWA, Winter SWL Fest. We've been talking about it for the last couple of weeks. We have a little bit more information for you. It is the largest gathering of radio listeners and hobbyists in North America. And the 2023 edition is taking place on Saturday, March the 4th, via Zoom. It's a virtual event. And there is a web page that you can go check out all the activities that will be taking place, swlfest.com, swlfest.com. It's organized by the North American Shortwave Association. And CIDX, our Canadian International DX Club, will be involved as well, hosting the hospitality suite throughout the event, where people can just gather and chat and meet other participants. We've been waiting for information on the registration details. We've been told, as of recording our show today, that the details and the registration process will be up on the webpage over the weekend. So by the time you're hearing this show, good chance that the information will be there. We believe it'll be a $5 registration fee to participate in the event. That'll cover the whole activity for the day. We will be active the Friday before, the March the 3rd in the evening. We'll be opening up the hospitality suite early and sort of an icebreaker event to welcome everybody to the event. And then the full schedule of forums and other activities will take place on Saturday, March the 4th. So to get all the information and to register as soon as that process is available through the webpage, swlfest.com is where to find all the details. And we hope to see a lot of you there.
We have a event coming up, which is the World Radio Day, and that's on February the 13th. This was proclaimed in 2011 by the member states of UNESCO and adopted by the United Nations General Assembly in 2012 as an international day. February 13th became World Radio Day. Radio is a powerful medium for celebrating humanity in all its diversity and constitutes a platform for democratic discourse. At the global level, radio remains the most widely consumed medium. The unique ability to reach out the widest audience means radio can shape a society's experience and diversity, stand as an arena for all voices to speak out, be represented, and heard. Radio stations should serve diverse communities, offering a wide variety of programs, viewpoints, and content, and reflect the diversity of audiences in their organizations and operations. Radio continues to be one of the most trusted and used media in the world, according to different international reports. The theme for the 12th edition of World Radio Day, to be celebrated on February 13th, 2023, is Radio and Peace. There's going to be probably a lot of things to listen to. I know Radio Romania is having special programming that day. They actually have a question they ask listeners, reading those letters on the air on February 13th.
The website is really interesting as well. Just you can search for World Radio Day. We'll put up the link to the website as well. But they have a tab on it with which is, I guess, sort of aimed at radio stations, giving them ideas of things that they could be doing. Hopefully, they've known about it in advance, because it is coming up on Monday. But as Gilles said, there will be a lot of different stations around the world doing different activities to mark the occasion. So check it out, hoping that there may be some special activities going on Monday on the radio station here as well. Now, big story here in Canada.
Yeah.
This got a lot of attention over the last few days. It came out on February the 7th in the Globe and Mail, which is one of the major newspapers in Canada. CBC signals plan to go full streaming, ending traditional TV and radio broadcasts. Now, that alone would attract a lot of attention.
Oh, yeah.
What does it all mean? The story is by Marie Wolfe out of Ottawa at the Globe and Mail office. The head of the CBC says, and CBC, for those who don't know, the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, which is radio and television in Canada. The head of the CBC said it is preparing to end traditional TV and radio broadcasts and move completely digital as audiences shift to streaming. But the move is unlikely to happen over the next decade. In an interview with the Globe and Mail, Catherine Tate, president and CEO of the CBC, said the broadcaster is eventually preparing to shift all of its content to online only in order to remain relevant. She said more and more Canadians are moving to streaming while the CBC is sitting here loyally broadcasting over the airwaves. If we are going to be audience first, we have to be digital first, she said. We get up every day and say, what do our audiences want and where are they? And they're on digital in increasing numbers. And so if we are not there, we're no longer relevant. She also criticized the Conservatives' call to defund the CBC, calling it a slogan, and expressed hope that Heritage Minister Pablo Rodriguez would scrap a Senate amendment banning the CBC from accepting sponsored content. Ms. Tate said that the core audience for television is 55 plus, or like 65 plus, so young people and diverse newcomers to Canada. They're online. Britain's public broadcaster is preparing to become an online-only service in the next decade. Ms. Tate said in Canada, the shift is unlikely to happen so soon as it requires broadband ubiquity to ensure that all Canadians, regardless of where they live or their socioeconomic status, have good enough internet to stream programs and films. Ms. Tate hit back at the Conservative campaign to strip the CBC of public subsidy, saying its Defund the CBC campaign was a tactic to solicit donations. They have an online fundraising campaign which very specifically says, "We'll save you $1 billion. Please send in $20. In 2022, the CBC received $1.24 billion from the government, 66% of CBC Radio-Canada's funding. She accused Tory leader Pierre Poilievre of inciting attacks on the broadcaster, saying there's a lot of CBC bashing going on, somewhat stoked by the leader of the opposition. I think they feel that CBC is a mouthpiece for the Liberal government, she said. On Friday, answering questions from reporters in the House of Commons about gun control, Mr. Poilievre accused a CBC journalist of trying to help the Prime Minister. Ms. Tate said CBC and Radio-Canada is working with the same budget as 30 years ago, so in real dollars, a third less. 30 years ago, we did linear television and linear radio, and today we do those two things, plus streaming GEM, plus streaming radio, plus the digital platforms that we do, she said. So we have completely tripled our output, yet we're doing it with less money. We don't want to drag Canadians to digital. They are dragging us, said Ms. Tate. The Broadcasting Act specifies that the CBC should provide radio and television services, so such a change may also require a change to the Act. We are the only broadcaster in the system that has the obligation to serve all Canadians, she said. So that means rural audiences that may only have their television. We are not going to abandon them. Ms. Tate said the CBC had a big win at last year's renewal of its broadcast license by the regulator, the CRTC, when it came to recognizing Canadian content on the CBC's digital arm. The CRTC, for the first time in history, said, "We'll count your Canadian content obligations on your streaming platform." She said she is watching closely this week whether Mr. Rodriguez accepts the Senate amendment to Bill C-11, which could affect CBC revenue. The amendment said the CBC cannot develop or broadcast an advertisement or announcement on behalf of an advertiser that is designed to resemble journalistic programming. The CBC already had paid content on some digital pages, though not on national news, and it's labeled as such. Do I think there should be a conversation about the financial model of the public broadcaster? Of course, she said, but that's not the venue. This sparked a lot of questions, a lot of comments from people, and Global TV reached out to her first, and I guess that sparked the CBC to coming back on the very same day with a somewhat different article.
So the CBC won't abandon TV radio audiences as it charts digital path over the next decade, says President. This is via CBC News. The CBC will continue to provide Canadians with traditional radio and television broadcasts and will delay its move to digital-only service until adequate high-speed internet is available to all Canadians, said the head of the CBC. Catherine Tate, President and CEO of the CBC, was responding to a report based on an interview she gave to the Globe and Mail newspaper. That article said she plans to move CBC to a digital-only format and abandon radio and TV, but the move isn't likely to happen over the next 10 years. Let's be clear, we're not abandoning anyone who's watching on traditional television or listening on traditional radio, she said Tuesday. We are looking at a 2-decade horizon. The BBC president announced a month ago that BBC would be going to digital only by 2030. That is not the case for the CBC. We are a vast country, and until we have ubiquity in broadcasting delivery in this country, we will leave no one behind. Tate said that while the CBC will not abandon traditional audiences, it will use its limited resources to ensure that the public broadcaster is serving and capturing the hearts and minds of those younger audiences too. Gregory Taylor, an associate professor at the University of Calgary's Department of Communication, Media and Film, said he's frustrated by CBC's push towards an all-digital format when traditional media services still have strong audiences and a digital-only future could be decades away. The CBC's been pushing this for a long time, Taylor said. The data does not back this up, and what frustrates me by this is that the data shows an incredible resiliency and a lot of the supposed old media. Taylor said that while audiences for older broadcast media may be declining, they still make up a significant share of the market. And while those audiences may represent an older demographic, he said they've not gone away, and the CBC has been stating that they're going away for 10 years right now. It'll likely happen at some point, but I see no reason that this needs to be the main fight that the CBC tries to bring forward right now. You know, first of all, I don't think we're there yet for digital. I don't think people stream radio over devices or computers, or I think they still listen on a good old radio for the most part. Even in the next 10 years, we're actually having a hard time giving internet to tons of places here in Canada. It's going to take a long time before everybody's connected. Yes, for digital content, absolutely. It adds an extra to what we have already. I don't think, moving away from radio and TV in its traditional form is a good idea for now.
We had a comment. This story was circulating in a lot of places. One of our board of directors of Canadian International DX Club, Nigel Pimblett, wrote that he lives just outside the city of Medicine Hat in southeastern Alberta. It's not a large city. And he says once you get out off the corridor of the Trans-Canada Highway that runs through there, the internet service is spotty at best. And that's in that sort of 200-mile wide band across Canada where the majority of Canadians live, within 200 miles of the U.S. border. The rest of the country is like, miles and miles and miles above that. And to get full service internet, high speed into all of those areas, it's going to take them a very long time. So don't start worrying tomorrow that that you're not going to be able to watch television and listen to the radio any longer. It's a long way down the road if and when it happens. It may come in stages. Some may come, some may not come. I keep thinking of all those people driving to work in their cars and listening to the radio. Just that alone is a huge audience. And, as with anything like this, it's coming down to money again, budget. And, we need more and we need to do more and it's going to cost more. And so, like I said, I think we're a long way off yet. And this kind of jumped the gun, I think, a little bit, probably scared a lot of people. Good to see that the media kind of jumped on it, though, and said, whoa, hang on a second here. What are you talking about? And that sort of got them to back off a little bit.
So what's happening with our sun? It is back into high gear this week as more and more big sunspots are showing up, and the sun has been once again flaring every day, multiple times a day. So a lot of activity. That means that conditions will be up and down. There will be, of course, solar blackouts on the HF bands, the shortwave bands, when a solar flare happens for a few minutes to an hour. There was actually a minor geomagnetic storm this week that happened because of these solar flares sending a lot of coronal mass ejections. These are things that might actually repeat themselves throughout the week. Solar flares, geomagnetic storms may be caused by some of the solar flares sending out CMEs, and that's going to be an up and down week for radio. But we like activity, and when the conditions get a little quieter, conditions are amazing. The solar flux is at 215 as we record, going up. It's been down a lot in the past week now. It's back up above 200. Sunspot number 150. And there is no significant coronal hole to add to the mix of the propagation throughout the week. And tomorrow will be the World Radio Day. And you know what you should do? Is turn on a radio and listen.
This is Skip Berry of New Jersey, listening to International Radio Report every Sunday morning at 10:30 on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal.
We next have a story that I think it sort of counters a little bit about what the CBC was talking about going digital, to show that the world is far from ready for this. And but it's a good story. The headline is "Portable Radios Make Overseas Trip to Ukraine and Local Fundraising Continues." This is by Al Karas of Radio World. Since starting his GoFundMe campaign in December, New York broadcast engineer Paul Thirst has raised more than $1,300 to send portable radios to war-torn Ukraine. In this high-tech world, with all of the many media choices available, when all else fails, radio is still there, wrote Thirst in a December Radio World story. That is true here, and it is true in Ukraine as well. With that in mind, we reached out to someone who is working for an aid organization and asked if small battery-powered radios would be helpful. The answer was an enthusiastic yes. Now the money raised has allowed Thirst to send 80 radios to Ukraine, with another 40 units on the way. Each radio will be distributed with 2 changes of batteries which is expected to provide roughly 2,400 hours of listening time. Each portable radio costs about $12 plus shipping. On his GoFundMe page, Thirst said he is looking to raise $10,000, which he says should purchase about 740 to 770 radios to be shipped to Poland, driven across the border, and distributed with weekly food, aid, and other supplies. Thirst said the radios are especially helpful in smaller settlements and rural areas where power restoration may take some time. These 80 radios have been distributed to mostly older folks living in villages, he said. We also sent along 2 Texan PL330 AM/FM long-wave shortwave receivers for the medical volunteers in eastern Ukraine. We're going to put up a link to a YouTube video that they put together that's actually showing some of the aid workers giving these radios to people, mostly elderly people living in very rural areas, and teaching them how to use them. And you can just see the excitement in the people of getting this little radio with pulling up the antenna, starting to tune it. You can only imagine, just how important something like this is to these people. Just to let everyone know, these people don't have internet.
No.
They may not have electricity. They may not have running water. There's lots of things they don't have. What they do have now in their hands is a nice little portable radio that's going to keep them in touch with what's going on out there around them. So great work that this gentleman is doing in New York, and his GoFundMe page is still up and running. You'll be able to look him up, and if you want to contribute to it, I'm sure he would appreciate any additional input. We know it's going to a great cause. Do check the YouTube video. It's just really great. It makes you feel good to see these people receiving and playing with those little radios. Just really, really nice.
And talking about radio and how important it is, there's a place called the Republic of CKUT.CA, or what we commonly call as Turkey, that had, of course, a huge earthquake and wide-scale destruction of a lot of the buildings and, homes. So we need help. We need to have emergency services there. And when the infrastructure breaks down because of a major event like an earthquake, well, amateur radio is there to help. And actually, there's been a lot of talk. There's apparently a lot of VHF, UHF ham communications going on. But they are asking the amateur radio community to keep 3 frequencies clear so as to help the emergency services get the communications across. 3777 lower sideband, 7092, and 28540. 3 frequencies they're apparently using for the communications to help out in the disaster area. So radio, once again, very helpful. And also, remember, this tells us how important amateur radio is in emergencies.
There were a few reports I noticed as well, some people hearing some extended broadcasts from the International Shortwave Service from Turkey. And obviously, they've been trying to put out more information on their shortwave services as well. A lot of Turkish people living around the world who may be trying to get news from the country. So using their shortwave service for that as well.
So we have a little bit of news about Bouvet Island, the expedition. And there's, of course, some update news that they have. They say everything is okay after a storm impacted the camp. Storm damaged the tent, but they successfully reinforced and repaired it. The antennas were not damaged. 1 transmitter operated on 30 meters all night, and the camp has about 4 days of food left before the team must resupply. So they're asking all sorts of things. First of all, they're telling everybody that if you contact them on one mode, on one band, don't try to contact them again on another mode or another band, to give chance to everybody to be able to do a contact. I'm going to tell you, they are looking at maybe trying to get 20,000 contacts. I know that the latest number we had was 7,000. You have to follow their Facebook group in order to really know where and when they are operating. It's a big mess every time they operate. Ham radio operators need to have discipline because this is crazy. Too many people, just getting on frequency, not knowing what a split is, it's like we're 3 up. What does that mean? That means they're transmitting on one frequency, listening on another. Too many ham operators don't know that and just broadcast on the same frequency they're broadcasting on. FT8. I've been trying FT8. It's a big mess. It's a complicated thing. It's like they're using Foxhound mode, which is a special mode for de-expeditions. But not only are people not knowing that, they're actually also broadcasting on or transmitting on the frequencies that the station is on the air, so making it very difficult. Even the expedition team is a little bit weird in their broadcast, or they're transmitting FT8. There's an odd and even cycle in there. Usually when you use Foxhound, you should be in the odd. They are doing it in the even, just to make sure that everybody is messed up even more. Every single day they were transmitting this week in every single band possible, both SSB and FT8. I doubt, after what I hear on the bands, that I'll be able to ever make a contact. And it looks like unless things change, they might not be there for as long as they want it to be.
Yeah, I listened around a little bit trying to hear them as well, and I just don't understand the amateur community. We've got pirates, stations on the air claiming to be them, which to me doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't quite understand what they're getting by doing that. You're hearing stations tuning up on their transmit frequencies, just jamming the frequencies, multiple stations calling on top of each other, not listening, just transmitting and not listening. That's really one of the big problems. I think they're going to end up being somewhat disappointed with the results of the operation, considering how many attempts they made to get to Bouvet Island and the money that's been spent to get there, the ordeal that they've had to go through to set up there.
Yep.
To not accomplish what they were hoping to accomplish is really going to be quite disappointing for them, I think. But they need cooperation. They need cooperation from the ham community all over the world, and they're just not getting it right now. It's pretty sad. Anyways, we move on to ham radio contests and events coming up for the next week or so. We start off with something for Valentine's Day. The Penn, Ohio DX Society is having their 070 Club Valentine Sprint. It is the full 24 hours of February the 14th, 0000 to 23:59 Zulu. The purpose, to work as many stations on 40, 80, and 160 as possible using PSK 31 mode during a 6-hour block. And the bands, as I said, 40, 80, 160, the mode PSK 31.
There's the German Telegraphy Activity Group that has the AGCW Semi-Automatic Key Evening, 1900 Zulu to 2030 Zulu, February 15th. The goal to have ham operators activate their semi-automatic keys or bugs, and that's, of course, for CW. And the band is 80 meters.
The Netherlands Telegraphy Club is organizing the NTC QSO party, 1900 to 2000 Zulu, February 16th. Not really a contest, they say, but the goal is to stimulate activity and to practice CW in and around the Netherlands. The band's 80, 40, and 20 meters, and the mode is CW.
And finally, we have the ARRL International DX Contest CW mode. 0000 Zulu, February 18th to 23:59 Zulu, February 19th, organized by the American Radio Relay League. Objective, to encourage the W and VE stations to expand knowledge of DX propagation on the HF and medium wave bands, improve operating skills, and improve station capability by creating a competition in which DX stations may only contact W or VE stations. Bands 160, 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10 meters. The mode, Morse code, CW.
All right. So there you have a bunch of activities going on for you to test out. And I like that last one, to get people to improve their operating skills and what have you. It
Yep.
could certainly be used. Should have had that before the Bouvet
man.
expedition
Yes.
happened, and maybe get some people to operate a little more civilly on the bands. If you have luck reaching them and contacting them, drop us a note. Let us know if what your experiences was. We'll keep trying and see if we can at least hear them or pull them out of the pile-ups, but it's going to be a tough one. But hey, it took a lot of work to get there. It's going to take a lot of work to try to hear them, or even tougher to contact them. So give it a shot. That will do it for us today. We thank you for tuning in. You can catch us again next Sunday morning, 10:30 Eastern, 15:30 UTC here on CKUT 90.3 FM in Montreal for the International Radio Report. Have a great week, everybody.
Bye-bye.